for you right there. So right now the Lions are currently still ranked as a top 10 defense in the NFL. Do you think that's a fraudulent rating? Do you think they come back down to earth where they're really like a top 16, top 15 defense? Or are you buying that they're a top 10?
No, you nailed it right there, man. Like, I think they're more of a middle of the pack than a top tenner, but the schedule is going to allow you to float around the 10 mark, Dave. I really do believe that. I don't know if, and I think the Chargers game this weekend is going to be a great litmus test because the Chargers, they can score. The Jets have a great defense, and they kind of, they took care of business yesterday. So I do want to see them against the Chargers. They have weapons. The Chargers have a problem with the receiving core right now and injuries, but, I think that right now I would rather see this offense I would rather this team rely on this offense, Dave. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one question I have with this defense and Aaron Glenn in particular is, I know we talked about the ability to play against mobile quarterbacks. And I think sometimes when you say mobile quarterbacks, we immediately think about like Lamar Jackson and a quarterback running for 50 or 60 yards. But really, like, when I think of mobile quarterbacks, I think of a Geno Smith. Geno Smith's not going to run, but Geno Smith can use his legs to extend a play. And you notice, again, like when they played against a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, Brant, he kept plays alive and he's dancing back there out in the pocket. He's getting outside. And that brings up the question mark once again is these DBs, like how much can they hang on? And I do wonder, and I think you're going to see even like with Herbert, this coming weekend, Herbert's another quarterback that can extend plays with his legs. I think it's going to be a really good litmus test, like you said, to see how they hold up. Even Josh Dobbs, Brant, Justin Fields is supposed to be coming back this Thursday. I mean, we're gonna kind of find out a lot about this defense because quarterbacks like that in particular have kind of been the Lions' kryptonite here. And I know it's a small sample size, so I'm not overreacting to that, but I think it's just something to keep an eye on moving forward. Brant, next question for you. I want to talk Jared Goff for a second. Has he done enough? Now I know he's been very good this year. If ended the year good last year, has he done enough right now as it stands today to warrant a contract extension?
Oh, 2021 Brant would just absolutely slap me. But I would tell 2020.
He had these tiny hands.
Yeah, listen.
I remember the podcast.
Listen, man, this guy has proven everybody wrong, including me. Give me the largest plate of crow you can find. I would probably be the last one on Goff Hater Island, but you know what? My ship's here, man. I got to get on. I got to get off this island because I'm the only one left. Props to Jared Goff, man. And I think that's something that we don't talk about enough, Dave. And it's going to really come into play as the season winds down here and as we head towards playoff time. You know what the murmurs are going to be of Lions fans are going to be like, yeah, our quarterback actually has been to a Super Bowl too. Like, here's a little known fact about Jared Goff. He played in a Super Bowl. He's led a playoff run. Like, that's actually going to be a huge feather in his cap when it comes around here. I do think it took time to get the system in place. It's up and going. He seems to be flourishing in it. Him and Dan Campbell are on the same page. Shoot, him and Brad Holmes are on the same page. Like, he seems like such an organizational guy. He's bought in with the organization. And you know what, Dave? There's something to be said for that. It's not all about on-the-field performance. I mean, that's 90% of it. But 10% is being a dude off the field, working with the organization, talking about salary contracts, putting your voice into who we should draft, I believe that Jared Goff as the leader of this team should be consulted for some of that stuff. And I just think he's a face of a franchise. And I think absolutely you want a guy like that locked up. And his performance on the field, because he's not dependent on his legs, he's a dude that could survive for a while in a pocket. And as long as you have a great offensive line like you already have, then it should be no problem locking him up to a 4 or 5 year contract.
Brant, it's so hard for me because to Jared Goff's credit, I mean, I think we all doubted him at some point. Maybe some did not. We certainly both did. And he has done everything in his power to change that narrative. I have such a hard time, Brant, of letting go of Jared Goff, the Ram, and seeing how that all ended there and how bad it got to the point where he was benched, and I don't even remember the guy's name they were playing.
He was like kind of hurt though too. Remember, like he did have some injuries and stuff like that. Dude, I can't remember the guy's name either. But sorry.
But it got really, really bad. Jared Goff looks like a different quarterback. Let's not forget he was the number 1 overall pick. And sometimes flowers bloom a little bit later. Maybe that's the case with Jared Goff. I don't want to say it hurts me to say, because I do agree at this point you got to pay him. I don't know where you go from here. He is definitely good enough, especially in this offense. I think that he's your guy. The only thing I will say before I ask you this next question is, if Ben Johnson leaves and gets a head coaching job somewhere, like, is there anything in the back of my mind that says, like, is this some, like, Ben Johnson magic, or is it a lot of Dan Campbell, too, that has his hand in this pot to make Jared Goff successful in this system? I hope it's Dan Campbell. I feel like he's definitely a part of that, but it's just something. It's like, as you constantly hear Ben Johnson mentioned as a potential future head coach, I don't know. I don't want to talk myself out of it, but I'm like 95% yes. Pay the man, give him a contract extension. All right, Brant. Quickly, these ones are short. Biggest disappointment right now, player, part of the team, anything with the Lions. What's been the biggest disappointment this halfway point of the year? And I can go first. If I know I'm putting you on the spot, we didn't rehearse any of these, so whatever you want to do.
No, yeah, you are kind of putting me on the spot here, but how about the secondary, Dave? I'll just start there. It's been such an up and down roller coaster. When Brian Branch isn't in, it just seems like a completely different unit. Jerry Jacobs has had his days, and I don't know if you really consider that a disappointment, but coming in the season, we did talk about, hey, this could be actually a strength of this team. Now, the depth was always an issue, Dave, and we did talk about that, and they have had those concerns since then. So I think we had that as like a B minus B area coming into the season. It's really turned out to be more of a C or C minus. And it's really hard to pick apart this team and to really find a real disappointment outside of the easy cherry pick that I'm sure you'll do with Jameson Williams, but I'll let you do that. But I really think the secondary as a whole has been kind of just meh.
You know me all too well, my friend. Yeah. J-Mo is just the ultimate disappointment right now. I keep saying, like, I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. Brant, at this point, I need like a larger sample size for him to prove me wrong. Like, I don't need a game where he has 2 huge plays, and because I've seen enough right now for me to be beyond concerned, whether it's his hands or just not being where he needs to be. Jameson Williams is nothing short of a disappointment right now, and not somebody that this team can really rely on moving forward. And I think what's most disappointing is they literally need a Jameson Williams and who he was supposed to be for this offense. Like, if he is who he was supposed to be, that will take this offense to a whole new level. That's why it's just so disappointing to me, as I'm like, what are they going to do at the trade deadline? Are they going to make a move? And it's like, dude, you traded up to get J-Mo, and he was supposed to be that guy to stretch things down the field, be your big play guy, and he just has not been it. So he's my biggest disappointment. Brant, you called it. On the opposite side of this, your biggest surprise or your most pleasant surprise so far?
Dave, this is kind of interesting because I'm gonna go a little bit different here that you probably are not gonna expect. How about the kicking game? How about Riley Patterson just being good? Like, I don't expect you to be great, but Dave, this is getting like bad for the last couple of years, right? You couldn't rely on the kicking game for Detroit. Like, it was an up and down. Dan's going for it on 4th and 4 in the second quarter, at the 31-yard line. Like, what are we doing? Like, just kick the 3. Just go take the 3. But I never felt like he felt comfortable with any of the field goal kickers that he has had. Riley Patterson has stepped in there, 11 of 13 for the year. He's been just fine. And I don't think they're like overdoing it with him. Dan's still going for it on fourth down at a decent clip. But to run a dude out there that you feel comfortable, like, hey, this guy can make a 50-yard game winner, and we feel comfortable with it. I mean, that to me has been the biggest surprise, Dave. Really.
Hey, that's fair. Was not expecting the kicking game to come up in the podcast, but that is shout out Riley Patterson. Yeah, I cannot disagree with that. Mine, Brant, has got to be the second round picks, both of them. Brian Branch, I mean, he's like out of the gate your first or second best defensive player, like next to Hutch. And the fact that he just came in so ready to play after he kind of slipped out of the first round and into the second. I know his combine test wasn't great. They got a steal. They got an absolute steal in Brian Branch, and I love that dude. He's going to be a staple of this team moving forward. And then Sam Laporta too. Sam Laporta is already, in my opinion, like a top 5 tight end in this league. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but he does honestly what I thought TJ Hawkinson was going to do. And I know Hawk has been good in Minnesota, but he blocks. He's reliable in the passing game. He's a weapon on offense. He just does all the little things. Those Iowa tight ends. But yeah, I think just, man, Sam Laporta, instant contributor. And really, he's an impact person on this team. And then Brian Branch, when healthy, absolute stud. My most pleasant surprises so far. Shout out Brad Holmes for the way he continues to just draft. So I'll give him the JMO pick on that note. Go ahead.
No, there's just Dave. You just kind of hit on it. That I think it's kind of funny. Like, hey, there's certain colleges that you would go to and be like, hey, just go ahead and draft this dude out of Alabama secondary. They're all really, really good. Oh, hey, those tight ends from Iowa, they're all pretty dang sweet, dude. Just go grab you one of those. So, like, while you say it's a surprise, it's not a surprise out of the schools that these kids come from that you're like, man, Laporta was a dude at Iowa. You know how hard it is to be a dude in that offense? To be a guy that gets drafted? If you're taking anybody from Iowa in the second round, they better be him. And he definitely turned out that way. So, yeah, fantastic point by you.
All right, so last one, Brant. Predictions the rest of the season. Lions currently 6-2. I think when we made our beginning of the year predictions, I was at 12-5. Brant, you were at 11-6. Does that sound familiar? I believe.
Yeah, I think I was 11-6. I was just shy of that. Yeah.
Yep. I think so. So your prediction the rest of the way. Where do you see this Lions team finishing out?
Dave, I'm gonna up it, man. 13-4. Let's roll. I do see a couple more losses on the schedule as I look it up and down. I think going to LA this next weekend, it's a tough spot. I think that they could get caught up there. Herbert, very good. We don't have to go over this, Dave. We don't have to spend the podcast talking about how good Justin Herbert is. Just know that he is a top 5, top 10 quarterback. He's definitely in that realm. So he's going to bring it. And I also believe that when they go down to Dallas, that's going to be a statement game. If they can get that done down there, Dak Prescott is playing at a top 10 quarterback level right now. So just a couple of very tough quarterbacks left on the schedule. And we talked about those Vikings games, Dave, already. Justin Fields back for the Bears. Might catch one there. You know, this schedule is soft. Don't get me wrong. But there are games left on there that I think the Lions can got. So give me 13-4.
Fair enough. I'm going to stick with my 12-5 because if I see them finishing these last 8 games 5-3, it just sounds so realistic and doable to me that I'm just going to stand pat. I think 12-5, and with the original prediction that they will win the division and they will host a playoff game at Ford Field. I think that has got to continue to be the goal, and I think it's a very, very real possibility here.